Their saliva isn't as acidic as you'd think. The human soldier, Jax, grinned as he examined the alien blood on his blade. He wiped it clean with a tattered rag, ignoring the disbelieving stares of his comrade. The enemy had been fierce, relentless even, but they hadn't anticipated the resilience of the human spirit or its dark humor. Across the battlefield, the alien commander, Zoger, surveyed the aftermath with a snarl. His troops, the formidable Creo, lay strewn across the terrain, their bodies twisted in grotesque forms. The humans had fought harder than expected, pushing his forces back with an almost animalistic tenacity. Commander Zoger hissed. One of his lieutenants, a creature with sharp mandibles and glowing eyes, approached. "The humans, they're not like the others we've faced," the lieutenant said. Zoger's eyes narrowed. He had underestimated these Earthlings, assuming them to be as easily conquered as the other races they'd subjugated. But this resistance was different. They were tenacious, adaptable, and disturbingly fearless. "It's time we show them the true power of the Creo," Zoger growled, his voice a deep rumble that sent shivers through his subordinates. "Unleash the beast." The lieutenant hesitated, its antennae twitching nervously. "But, Commander, the beast is—" "Do it." Zoger's command was absolute, and the lieutenant scurried off to execute the order. Meanwhile, Jax and his squad regrouped, tending to their wounds and reloading their weapons. The air was thick with the scent of blood and smoke, but the humans were undeterred. They had faced extinction before, and they would face it again if it meant protecting their home. "Hey, Jax!" called out Mike, a burly soldier with a thick beard and a penchant for bad jokes. "You ever wonder what kind of beast these aliens keep talking about?" Jax shrugged, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Whatever it is, it can't be worse than my ex-wife's cooking." The squad burst into laughter, the sound a stark contrast to the grim surroundings. It was their way of coping, of maintaining their humanity in the face of such overwhelming odds. A low rumble echoed across the battlefield, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Jax's smile faded as he turned to face the source of the disturbance. Emerging from the alien stronghold was a massive creature, easily 3 times the size of any human. Its body was covered in thick, dark scales, and its eyes glowed with a fierce, malevolent intelligence. "Holy hell," Mike muttered, his voice tinged with awe and fear. "That thing is huge." Jax tightened his grip on his weapon, his mind racing. This was no ordinary opponent. The beast was a living weapon bred for war and destruction, but there was no room for fear. Not now. "All right, boys," Jax said, his voice steady. "Let's show this overgrown lizard what humans are made of." The beast roared, a sound that seemed to shake the very sky as it charged forward, its massive claws tearing through the ground. Jax and his squad opened fire, their bullets ricocheting off the creature's armored hide. The beast's advance was relentless, its eyes fixed on the tiny figures defying it. Jax darted to the side, narrowly avoiding a swipe from the beast's claw. He fired a burst of shots at its exposed underbelly, but the bullets barely made a dent. The creature snarled, swinging its tail with devastating force. Jax was thrown back, his body slamming into the ground. "Jax!" Mike yelled, rushing to his friend's side. He helped Jax to his feet, his eyes never leaving the monstrous figure before them. "I'm okay," Jax grunted, wincing as he stood. "We need a new plan. This thing's too tough." As they regrouped, a young soldier named Liam approached, a determined look in his eyes. "Sir, I've got an idea. The beast's eyes seem to be its weak point. If we can blind it, we might stand a chance." Jax nodded, a spark of hope igniting within him. "All right, Liam, you take point. Mike, cover him. The rest of you, keep that thing distracted." The squad sprang into action, coordinating their movements with practiced precision. Liam moved forward, his hands steady as he aimed for the beast's eyes. Mike provided covering fire, his shots drawing the creature's attention away from Liam. With a deep breath, Liam fired. The bullet struck true, hitting the beast in one of its glowing eyes. The creature howled in pain, thrashing wildly. Jax seized the opportunity, leading the charge against the now blinded beast. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The humans fought with renewed vigor, their determination unwavering. They dodged the beast's frenzied attacks, chipping away at its defenses bit by bit. "Come on, you ugly bastard," Jax shouted, firing another volley at the beast's other eye. "We're not done yet." The beast roared again, but this time, it was a sound of desperation. It stumbled, its movements growing sluggish. Jackson, his squad pressed their advantage, focusing their fire on the creature's vulnerable spots. Finally, with a deafening crash, the beast collapsed. The ground shook as its massive body hit the earth, lifeless at last. The humans stood victorious, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They had faced the beast and won. But as they surveyed the battlefield, they knew this was only the beginning. The war was far from over, and the true test of humanity's strength was yet to come. In the distance, Commander Zoger watched the defeat of his prize weapon with cold fury. The humans had proven themselves more formidable than he had anticipated. But this was not the end. He would not rest until every last one of them was crushed beneath the might of the Creo. "Prepare the next wave," Zoger commanded, his voice icy. "The humans will learn the true meaning of fear." Back at the human camp, Jax and his squad regrouped, their spirits high despite the exhaustion that weighed on them. They had faced the beast and emerged victorious, but they knew more challenges lay ahead. As they prepared for the next battle, Jax couldn't help but smile. The aliens had unleashed their most fearsome creature, and it had fallen to the courage and ingenuity of a few determined soldiers. It was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a spirit that would continue to fight no matter the odds. The victory over the beast had bolstered the human spirit, but the respite was short-lived. Jax and his squad barely had time to catch their breath before the ground started to tremble again. This time, it wasn't just one creature. It was a full-scale assault incoming. "Mike!" yelled Liam, pointing toward the horizon where a wave of Creo soldiers advanced, their silhouettes stark against the darkening sky. Jax tightened his grip on his rifle, the adrenaline kicking in once more. "Form up, we hold this line." The squad scrambled into defensive positions, their weapons ready. They knew this would be a brutal fight, but they had no choice but to stand their ground. "We've got multiple hostiles coming in from the east," Liam reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Roger that, Liam," Jax replied. "Mike, take your team and flank them. We'll cover you." Mike nodded, rallying his team with a determined grin. "You heard the man! Let's show these alien bastards what we're made of." As Mike's team moved to flank the advancing Creo, Jax and the rest of the squad opened fire. The air was filled with the deafening sounds of gunfire and explosions. The Creo, though fierce, struggled against the well-coordinated human defense. But the Creo were not without their own tactics. From behind their front lines emerged a group of elite soldiers clad in heavy armor and armed with advanced weaponry. These were the best of the best, trained for one purpose: to crush any resistance. "Liam, target those elites. We can't let them break through," Jax commanded. Liam nodded, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the new threat. He took a deep breath and fired his shots, precise and deadly. The elites were tough, but Liam's sharp shooting skills began to thin their ranks. Meanwhile, Mike's team had successfully flanked the eastern Creo forces, catching them off guard. The surprise attack disrupted the alien advance, buying Jax and his squad valuable time. As the battle raged on, Jax noticed something troubling. A massive Creo transport ship was descending, its dark shape looming ominously above the battlefield. It was clear that reinforcements were on the way, and if they landed, the human defenders would be overwhelmed. "We need to take out that transport ship," Jax shouted. "Liam, Mike, with me. The rest of you, hold the line." The three of them sprinted toward the nearest ridge, where they could get a clear shot at the transport ship. The ground shook with each step, and the air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burning metal. "Jack, we won't have much time once that thing lands," Liam said, his voice grim. "I know," Jax replied. "We have to hit it hard and fast." "Mike, do you still have those charges?" Mike grinned, patting the satchel slung over his shoulder. "Always ready, boss." They reached the ridge, and Jax pulled out his binoculars to survey the situation. The transport ship was heavily armored, with gun turrets mounted on its sides. But Jax spotted a weak point: the ship's landing gear. "There," he said, pointing. "If we could disable its landing gear, we might be able to cripple it." "Got it," Mike said, pulling out the charges and preparing them. "Cover me while I plant these." Jax and Liam nodded, their weapons at the ready. As Mike made his way toward the transport ship, the turrets swiveled toward him, spitting a hail of bullets. Jax and Liam returned fire, drawing the turret's attention away from their comrade. Come on, Mike, Jax muttered under his breath. Hurry up. Mike reached the landing gear and began planting the charges, his hands moving quickly and efficiently. But the Creo were going to make it easy. A squad of alien soldiers emerged from the ship, advancing toward Mike's position. Liam, take them out, Jax shouted. Liam nodded, his shots precise as he picked off the approaching Creo soldiers. But there were too many of them, and they were closing in fast. Almost done, Mike called out, his voice strained. Hurry up, Mike, Jax shouted, firing at the advancing Creo. Finally, Mike finished planting the charges and sprinted back toward the ridge. Charges are set. Let's blow this thing, Jax nodded, pulling out the detonator. He waited until Mike was clear, then pressed the button. The charges detonated with a thunderous explosion, and the transport ship's landing gear buckled under the force. The ship listed to one side, its engine sputtering as it struggled to remain airborne. Nice work, Mike, Jax said, clapping his friend on the back. The transport ship crashed to the ground, its bulk crushing several Creo soldiers in the process. The explosion sent a shockwave through the battlefield, scattering the remaining Creo forces. The humans had won another victory, but Jax knew it was only temporary. The Creo would be back, stronger and more determined than ever. But for now, the battlefield was theirs, and they would savor their hard-earned triumph. As the sun set on the war-torn landscape, Jax and his squad regrouped, their spirits buoyed by their success. They knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but they were ready to face whatever came next. We've got a long way to go, Jax said, his voice steady. But we'll keep fighting, for Earth, and for each other. The squad nodded, their faces set with determination. They were soldiers, survivors, and defenders of humanity. And they would not be broken,